I need to stretch my legs and my hands, and my eyes get tired. So 6 hours is my max. I try to keep it to 4 hours a session if that is required.
Any really strange requests?
I have done the, what's his name? Uncle Moneybags, the guy from the Monopoly game.
Mm-hmm.
I've done him on a butt cheek with the words, "Do not pass go, do not collect $200. That was an odd one. That's gonna stay pretty valid for a long time.
Yeah. Wow. That's a region I didn't know that someone would want a tattoo, but okay.
Oh yeah.
Whatever the client wants, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we have some boundaries, but it's pretty much, we make it work.
As long as he keeps what's inside him, and not let any exits come, boy. Anyway, so what's the process you go through when getting a client and you want to do a tattoo? How do you go about feeling them out, getting the idea, the concept, and then getting it on their body?
Usually, the way we work it is if a client reaches out and they express interest, we set up a consultation, which is about a 15-minute meeting where we discuss ideas and placement and size and budget if that's necessary. And they will show me either tattoos that they've seen that they like, or they'll just show me artwork or photographs in the stylistic direction that they'd like to go in. And from there, we kind of figure out what the best placement would be and set them up with an appointment or several appointments if the project needs it. And then I go home with their ideas, and I sit with my books, and I flip through the internet till the wee hours and find source imagery that helps me kind of piece together and compose the tattoo that they're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Then meet with them, and then it's time to apply this ink.
Then on tattoo day, we size up the stencil. I'll have a line drawing of, I'll have a fully rendered illustration of what I would like the tattoo to look like when it's done. But on top of that, I have a layer that is just a line drawing. And when I say layer, I'm working in my iPad Pro on Procreate. So I can create layers similar to an Illustrator file or a Photoshop file, where I can have a transparent layer on top of my artwork where I create the line drawing. So I print the line drawing out, I size it up to the area of the body. As long as that works, I send it through the stencil machine, make the stencil, place it on them, and we are off and running. Wow. So sometimes it's one session. The first session can sometimes be all outlining if it's a large piece, and then when I see them again, we start mapping in shades and then color from there. But depending on the piece, depending on the client, we can either move more quickly or slowly, depending.
Has anyone ever said, like after the first few moments, that okay, I can't do this anymore? Has anyone ever or they stick through it? They've mostly stuck through it.
Most of the time we kind of talk them out of, if a client is having trouble and they think that they maybe can't handle the pain, you acknowledge that for them and let them know that it's normal that they're feeling uncomfortable, but kind of pep talk and let them know that the longer that we sit here and talk about how much it hurts, the more it's going to hurt. So if you've decided you want this thing bad enough, you sit through it, and most people are good. I've never had anyone tap out. I've had people be very vocal for the whole session, but no one's ever said, I can't do it. So for the most part, if they're there, that they know why, and you're
ready to go through it. Can you apply to yourself? Can you tattoo yourself, or is that something no tattoo artist really does?
No, every tattooer that I know has tattooed themselves. Mm-hmm. It is not the most comfortable thing to do because it's tiring to be tattooed and it's tiring to tattoo. So when you're doing both of those things simultaneously, it gets pretty exhausting. So
Imagine.
I've tattooed my calf a little bit. You're kind of limited as to what you can reach on yourself.
Yeah.
And you need to get a good stretch with, your non-dominant hand. So, I've worked on my lower leg a little bit, but things are still in progress because, I sit down thinking it's going to be a great idea. And then 20 minutes into it, I'm asking myself, why? What about this? What about this seemed like a fun idea? So, but yeah, I think it's important that you tattoo yourself. Just because you can kind of observe your mark making, you can kind of observe what works and what doesn't, and it helps to kind of feel your pressure. It kind of helps to remind yourself of what it's like to be on the other side of the machine sometimes. Because we can go for years without getting a fresh tattoo, and we kind of forget what it can be like. So I think it's important for tattooers to continuously be tattooed, whether it's by themselves or having their friends throw a little jammer on them or something. I think it's good.
Where did you start off doing tattoos? Where was your first place that you worked at?
The first shop that I worked at was a shop in Islip. I don't know if I want to mention names.
All right. But it's in Islip somewhere. Okay.
Yes, the shop was in Islip. And I was with that shop for the first 8 years of my career. I learned a lot there. I did a lot of growing there, and super grateful for the opportunity to be kind of brought into this whole tattoo world. But then after about the 8 years, it was time for me to kind of stretch my wings a little bit and work with other people. It was a very small shop, the first shop I was at. I've kind of, the shop I'm at now is also kind of small and somewhat private, but when you're first learning, if you're only with one other person and that's your mentor, you don't really get to bounce off of other brains and see what other people are making. And when you're observing one person that has developed their own routine and their own style and their own sort of process. So it's helpful to see how other tattooers will approach certain things. So it was time for me to go. And I started with another shop that was in Copiague out here on Long Island. And that shop was much bigger. That shop had about 7 artists there. And I was with them for 6 months or so. But it was more of a street shop. And they had a very distinct sort of American traditional style to a lot of the work that they were doing. And I don't think it was the best place for me either. I did learn a lot technically there about application, and I learned more about American traditional than I had learned from my first shop. So it was nice to be around a new set of artists with a new vocabulary and pick up some tips and pointers and learning experiences there. And then after that shop, I landed at Artful Ink, which is where I'm at now. And that will be 3 years for me there coming June. And I love it at Artful Ink. I work with 2 other women, Kelly Gelling and Jillian Mackey, and they are my homegirls. And we are we're bouncing off of each other every day, constantly creating and discussing process and technique and things like this. So I'm super happy to be where I am, and learned a lot. Everywhere I've been, I've learned a lot, and I'm super grateful for that. So
where's
every
the shop?
day is the shop is in Bohemia.
Gotta go check them out.
Yeah, Smithtown Avenue in Bohemia.
Remember that. We'll put it in the show notes, kids. Now, as an artist, did your creativity, your artistic side help you through any tough times, difficult times?
I would say that it's been such a constant that it must have, because it's just always been a part of the way I express myself through the good and the bad. I don't know that I can pinpoint a time where things were insurmountable. But I would say that if I did not have art and creativity, that I would probably get lost in anxieties and kind of obsessive compulsive things that could be crippling. And I think that that's also a part of why I make work the way I make work. And a part of what I love about the tattooing process is that it is so sort of, there's a consistent way to set things up, and there's a routine and a ritual that's kind of involved with the application of a tattoo, and the mark making can be very repetitive and meditative, and that's definitely helpful. It's super great to be able to kind of get lost in something, whether it's a drawing or a painting or a tattoo, when you feel like you might be spiraling out and you need to kind of force yourself to be present. I find that art helps me do that. Tattoos have definitely pulled me out of funks many, many, many times where I'm having just, a less than spectacular day, but you got to shake it off and you have to sit down and be present for the tattoo. And it's a mindfulness that's helpful. So I'm certain that it's helped me through a lot, and it's almost just been so organic that it's not like there was like here's a terrible thing I'm going through, let me turn to my painting or let me turn to my tattooing. It's just kind of like, however crappy I'm feeling and however down things may be, like, this is the constant that I know will help me through whatever it is I'm going through.
Any misconceptions you think people have about tattoo art or being a tattoo artist?
Well, there's always going to be a stigma, I think, attached to tattooing. I think it's far less now than it was even 10 years ago. I think people, up until fairly recently, have had an idea of what a tattoo is supposed to look like. Traditional rules and traditional style elements that have to be present to be, or when people think of tattoos, they're most likely thinking of either Japanese traditional or American traditional. And nowadays it's gotten much more, I want to say, artful. There's not so much a formula for every tattoo from, if you have 6 artists in a shop, you could have 6 very different approaches to tattooing. And the machines have come so far, and the needles are of higher quality. The pigments are better. So the artistry has grown. So I think that the preconceived notions of what a tattoo is or isn't or can be or can't be has kind of been blurred. Rules are broken and things like that. And there are traditionalists and purists that still will stick to, the structure of American traditional stuff or the structure of Japanese. And that's totally fine and that's totally valid. But there's a lot more that can be done and different ways to think about putting tattoos together that you didn't see even 10 years ago. So, things are changing, and there's tattooers coming from all walks of life, and there are people getting tattooed coming from all walks of life. We have it all, from lawyers to mechanics to stay-at-home moms. So it's nice. I think that the gap is being bridged a bit, which some people, I guess, would be a little disappointed about because they kind of like being on the edge and like being in that counterculture. But I think the accessibility has definitely broadened, and I think that that's a good thing.
It's a boon for the art, definitely. Do you think we all have a little artist inside of us?
I absolutely do. Yeah, I think that just by existing, that there's something that causes us to want to create, whether it's, taking photographs or scrapbooking or doing video. I think that I think everybody's got that creative spark in them. It's just the ones that choose to foster it that can really kind of break through that shell and get to some nitty gritty stuff. But yes, I do think that everybody's an artist.